pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now I do.
Thank you.
Want me to start over again?
No, it's fine.
It'll only take 2 minutes. Okay, so if you I will. Let's hear about the reports.
Is it okay if I take my mask off when I talk, or would you prefer it to be on?
It would be fine. You're far enough away, and I don't think you chew snuff or anything, right?
Just sneeze in his direction.
All right, I'll make sure. I'll target it very precisely. Once again, this is Nicholas Reitinger with Vibratech, and I'm going over the data for September and October of 2020 here at Hansen Surftex. In the month of September, we had 12 shots. Our highest PPV, was on the 14th of September, and that was from the Aggie Pit East Wall A. That was a 0.7 recorded at the Warden property line. And our highest air over pressure reading was again on the 14th of September, the Aggie Pit East Wall A. And that was a reading of 118 decibels recorded at both the Warden property line and city property line. For October, we had a grand total of 10 shots. Our highest PPV was on the 20th of October, Aggie Pit North Wall B, and that was recorded to be a 0.175 at the Warden property line and at the Warden residence. Our highest air over pressure was on the 30th of October. That was an Aggie Pit North Wall A shot, and the air over pressure was of 114 dB, recorded at the Warden property and the Warden residence. Here is our USBM for both months. Everything plotting well below the Z-curve. And here is our air over pressure for both September and October. Once again, well under the 120 decibel mark. This next slide is something new I'm going to be adding into all of our future presentations. This is what we're going to call the concern map. This is a map of all of the concerns that were registered for both September and October. The red with the seismic line, those represent where we currently have seismographs. Over in the pit, those colors dated just on the top, the blue, 10/30/2020 Aggie Pit North A. All of the blue pins on the map represent concerns on that blast day. So we had 3, Jolene Gould, Vivian Midla, and McAllister Bacon, all on the 20th of October that were concerned. And what you can see here is there's an abundance of yellow, which happened on the 7th of October when we shot the Aggie Pit. I think this map's going to be very helpful when we start pinning down what areas we need to be concerned about for blasts.
You say you're going to do that from they're not in this packet, but the next one.
This will be in my presentation.
Oh, not in the packets.
No, yeah, because this is going to correlate directly to the concerns.
Okay.
Yep. Another thing to point out in this map, and we can circle back to this at any time, but way down that green arrow, Anthony Frasco, and it was actually his wife that made a concern the second time. That's twice. We have a concern on the 7th and on the 30th. I put the distances in there. From their shots, they're both an excess of 10,000 feet away, still registering concerns. Another thing to take on all of this notation, if you can read everything on here, I know it's a busy map, but just take that green pin, Anthony Frasco, 1030, at a distance of 10,340. Those letters afterward are very significant. Those represent, in this case, contact requested / attempted. That means when they registered their concern, they did say they wanted to be reached out with. And the A means we called twice, left messages, no response back. Okay? I'll point out another, just on the other side of that, the first Anthony Fresco on the 7th, contact not requested, so there was no contact. That's what that CN and no. A big one here this month we tried multiple times was Amy Harrell on 10/7. It was actually the discussion to move the floater to her residence. My office notified more than twice, and actually I had a technician go to her door to drop a business card, ended up speaking with, I believe, the son of Mrs. Harrell, still no contact. That comes down to, you know, we're at a bit of a standstill. If someone registers a complaint and wants to be contacted and doesn't respond to us, my office is tied until that comes through. I just wanted to point that out now in map form too. Now we have that data. Okay?
I like this. This is very helpful.
Thank you.
I would remind you that Amy Harrell was one of the folks who said she would consider
Sure.
a monitor at her place too.
And that was a big thing to reach out to not only discuss to her about this, we tried multiple times to get in touch with her, no word.
Okay.
So we were, on Friday, we have moved the Baker unit to Harkin. However, you'll see, and that's in February, the February report, but if I could, okay, here's my mouse. So this is Michael's. This one is Baker. Harkin is just on the other side of the street. Okay, so as far as a difference in data, you're not going to be looking at much.
Okay.
It would be very beneficial, see all these yellow lines, it would be beneficial to get something in this area. But there is no open green space. So we're looking at homeowner only, and with no call to the office, we're at a bit of a standstill.
Well, and Amy lives right on Sumac
Right here.
Lane.
Oh, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, and she.
Perfect
So
location.
now you switched it to,
Harkin, which is on Laguna.
that's in the enclave there, I think. isn't
Right
it?
here. That's right up in this area is where
Yeah.
our new monitor is. So we just
Okay.
went from there to there. I was hoping to get it from there down to
Yeah.
there.
All right.
Okay?
I'll give her a call.
And this, again, this map, just to beat a dead horse here, look at this wall of seismographs we have. When the vibrations hit these, we're going to look at our waveforms, and the science is logical. That vibrational wave is not going to increase in velocity. And it truly does, you know, to have a complaint registered down here from a reading we get here, and it's well within compliance, nothing this commission hasn't seen before. I am at a loss as to see what could be going on down here. I'd be very curious to put a unit in to see.
He's got a quarry
You're-
close,
Right here.
Right.
At one point, they were shooting, but that's been dormant for about 2 years.
okay,
So these complaints, they do match up with the time from when they shot, so they felt something. I can't imagine what it could be when you see the, we'll go into those, right? So let's dive in. Oop. So our very first concern here for September was on the 30th from Mrs. Diaz. And the blast that occurred today at 1:43 p.m. Sent waves of vibration through my house. I was sitting in the back part of the kitchen. My granddaughter was doing virtual school in the office. She came out and said, wow, that was a big blast. I have glasses in a hutch that swayed. It was an awful feeling. I've been home all day for the past 2 weeks, and this was so disturbing that I had to make a report. So here is our shot on our base pit, the Holly residence recorded, and here's Mr. Diaz's home. So this reading right here, to point out, we've got some very nice frequencies. This is really what the target is we're looking for. 0.0153 was our peak particle velocity, again recorded at Mr. Holly's residence and dissipated by the time it hit Diaz. Okay, so here's Mr. Frasco. I think I'm jumping over, yeah, so Mr. Frasco. The blasts have been getting more and more frequent and more powerful. The October 7th blast shook the entire house and lasted longer than the others, so almost like aftershocks. My wife ran outside to see if there was a plane crash, frightening. So directly in line here at the city property line. So again, these readings, these frequencies aren't as high at Diaz, but there's nothing really to rag home about. So again, our air over pressure is a 110, so I'd be very interested to see what the readings are that they're receiving. Here's Mr. Olson. Shook the entire house and rattled. The earth jolting movement was quite alarming. Again, we have city property line on the Aggie pit here. Once again, our frequencies seem fine. Mr. Luis Castanelos. This is the strongest blast that we have felt. It shook the whole house. Several of our hanging pictures were crooked after the blast. Now, he did request to be contacted. Both Pat and I have spoken with Mr. Castanelos. He seems to be fine now. Explained some of the readings to him, so I'm considering him a happy customer. He seemed quite pleased. Ward in residence that day. All right, I mean, that's a 0.138. It's a hit, but still, our frequencies, that's fine. And again, that's at the Warden residence. I don't know if I can get that map back up, but certainly less. So again, on the 7th, Mrs. Harrell shook my entire house, windows rattled. The increased intensity of the blasts are becoming more and more concerning. I've noticed foundation cracks starting to form. Wanting to be contacted. Our unit here at city property line. Just like what we've seen before. Again, well.
And she's the one on Sumac.
Uh-huh. Now look at just Mr. Holly, look at where this is almost perfectly equidistant. The readings are not going to exceed what we've seen at city property line.
Frequency may get lower just because
It could, sure, because of the distance. The frustrating part of what it is I haven't measured there. I don't know.
right.
I couldn't tell you. But I know if it's in compliance at city property line, it is within compliance down there. McAllister Bacon, stronger than usual. Walls are starting to show more cracks, not good. No contact, so we have not reached out to her. But again, how close Baker is, I mean, these are even higher frequencies than what we've seen before. And this is the shot on the 20th. Or is it on the 7th? I'm sorry. Yeah, this is on the 7th still. Okay, Mrs. Barwick, on the 7th, my home rattled everywhere, noises from all directions. It scared my dog so bad, he ran and jumped into my lap. Way out. And just a direct line from there to Michael's back over. Duration might be a bit long, but still our peak particle and our frequencies are right where our target should be. On the 14th, a large boom and severe shaking of the ground, the house and other structures on our property occurred as a result of blasting at the quarry. This is Mr. Scott. Much closer, here he is in Trophy Oaks, but again, the Holly residence.
You know, looking at that graphic that you show there,
Yeah.
if you could go back to
Sorry,
that.
where is it? It's a very sensitive mouse, my apologies. I'm not trying to
No problem.
give you a seizure.
Just
There it is. Oh, that's for Walker.
one more forward.
There it is.
Okay. We're neighbors, literally neighbors. I mean, if he speaks, I hear. If I speak, he hears. And it's at this tone of voice, and it seems like that's a long distance from the monitor to his house. Is it really Do you guys see that? See how, I mean, yeah, there may be 200 feet,
Okay.
3, maybe. It just seems like, and he's complaining about it, and
Are you feeling it?
I don't remember that day. But yeah, I like the blast today, yes, I felt it.
Uh-huh.
And then I listened for the sound.
Sure.
I had all the windows closed and didn't hear the horn, but then I felt the blast, so then I went and I opened the window and I listened, and yes, I finally heard the beeps, or the after, the all clear signal. So, okay. It's just a distance thing there. Same thing with the Diaz residents. It seems like they're really close, but it seems like the graphic shows them as being further away. I don't know. Okay.
What we do see there is, it's not an isolated response. In other words, the 7th blast, the October 7th blast, got responses from, 5, 6 people.
Correct, but this one's on the 14th. This particular shot is 10/14.
Oh, you're doing Scott now. Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Uh-huh.
Right.
No, I know,
Okay.
correct. To have 4 people all concerned, and their time when they generate it matches in when everybody shot, it does correlate, for sure. All right, here on the 20th, James Walker, Aggie Pit North, house rattled more than past blasts. He wanted to be contacted as well. Reached out. I don't remember anything that wasn't resolved in one conversation. I think he just wanted to double check to make sure that we were all square and monitoring. At one point, and it's been a while now, but at one point we used to do significant monitoring, I believe, on this road here. Tuscan Hills Drive, so the home must have been off Tuscan Hills Drive, kind of down in this area. So we do know from that past data that, yes, the seismograph triggered, but again, at very low levels. And I believe Mrs. Midla is also on here. I'd have to double check, but I think she might be right in this corner. We've monitored at that house as well.
You know what, you're talking about that,
Uh-huh.
the interesting thing, and obviously nobody complained, but the statistics or the data here, on the 19th, you had a blast, and when I got the readout and looked at it back on the 19th, I was amazed that at something, and I was looking at it back up here, but at 3,600 feet, no trigger. At 4,300 feet, yes, the Baker residence, a trigger. At 2,900 feet, no trigger. I mean, at 3,600, no trigger, at 2,900, no trigger.
You'd expect
and
them to
then
incrementally
triggers at
go up.
33 and 35.
Sure.
I mean, just weird that
Sure.
the closest one felt nothing. The one, two of them kind of in the middle
Yeah.
didn't feel it, but then the second and fifth felt it. It's weird.
The mapping,
And I didn't say they felt it, but there was no seismic trigger. It's interesting.
right, the mapping of the soils in this whole area is so bizarre and so unique to each little pocket here. It's very difficult to see that correlation line up. I'm like you, Mr. Shantz. I want, the mapping should match up
Yeah.
with the complaints, and there's some disconnect.
Now, did you say, going back, that the Midla residence was right near there as well?
They're somewhere, and I've got them mapped. They did have a concern, but I want to say they're somewhere in here. We'll see when I get there. Yeah,
Because I did notice on her note that
There's
she
somewhere
wanted
in
to be
this
placed on the monitor list as well.
sure. And we have been there before.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so here's our readings at Michael's.
Is there any correlation? What is the max pounds delay?
The max pounds per delay for each shot.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I will have Buckley Powder answer that one. Okay.
I'm just wondering if there's any kind of correlation with
Sure.
the numbers, with the data.
It's complicated.
I know. I'm just wondering about that.
I
This
want-
is just question one.
Okay. It's okay. I mean, I want to give you the proper definition for it.
No, I understand, that's fine.
Okay. So here we are again on the 20th, Jolene Gould. Now, this particular homeowner did request to be contacted. We were unable to contact her. Interestingly enough, doing my little recon here this afternoon, she's the house, when you walk out of this front door, she's this first house right next to us. So right in line with city property line. It does look like there's an easement that we could put a unit in that I don't think would actually be on our property. I'd kind of, for security's sake, prefer to be in a property just to make sure there's no theft, but actually looking through there, if everyone's interested in putting a unit there, that looks like that could be done, if that needs to happen, just as a curiosity there.
We'll check it out and see how it really looks, and
Yeah.
we'll let you know.
When you come down the steps and look across, you're looking right at it, but yeah, I'm happy to point
Understood.
it out. All right, so here's Mrs. Midla on the 20th. The blast had reverberated effect on our home. I was in the office working. When the blast happened, my computer screens absorbed the shock and shook as the blast went back and forth through the ground. Closet doors were closed but vibrated, making a rattling sound. She didn't want to be contacted, so yeah, she is right by Walker. They're right by each other. I thought she'd be in this corner. She's down over here on this side. Here's our readings from Michaels. And our last for the week again, Mrs. Frasco. Another blast, this one at 1:25 p.m. It was not typical. It was pulsating, rolling explosions, and very frightening. Again, asked to be contacted, and no response. She didn't on the first one on the 7th. And then when she made the second one, she did reach out to, she wanted to be contacted, and there had been no response. All right, so I'll leave up, I think the best thing to leave up is maybe our complaint map, so we can see everybody for the 2 months. There is something else I'd like to address here, just for how our procedure's done through our office. It looks like lately there's a few different forms of media for how people are registering these concerns.
Yes.
I've had a few that were just straight up emails, some are handwritten. I'd prefer there be one specific metric. How our office deals with these is when they come through, immediately what we're looking for is whether or not they need to be contacted. And those other forms of metric out there, whether they just be scribbled in or forgotten completely, I just prefer it be the one main use of documentation that goes out. If there's any way we could regulate that, would make it easier.
When you say multiple forms of metrics, are you thinking of things like,
The sheets, the
sheets that
concern
come in.
sheets, yeah.
Okay.
I think a few just came in email form this time. I know at least one did.
okay,
I'd like to have as much information as I can before I can go out.
So you're saying there's a different format?
Yeah, I got them here. Can
Yeah.
I back out? Can you escape out of this and get me on my thumb
Yeah,
drive?
basically what I'm understanding is sometimes
Yeah,
somebody will
perfect.
just type up an email and say, this was a terrible blast today, and then somebody else will come along and they will just write it down on a sheet of paper and fax it to the city hall, rather than actually filling out the form.
We
that is
developed for that
represent-
purpose.
Exactly.
So this right here is an example. This is not, we get a few of these each month. This is not the preferred way we'd like to do it. Simply out of the clarity of the handwritten, comments. I think rolling down here, she did scribble a no. A few haven't. I don't want to make too big of a thing. It would just be easier if we were all using the same form.
Unfortunately, when they follow this format and they do a handwritten one,
Yeah.
they may not be able to get to a computer at the time or whatever, and
Okay.
they want
Yeah, we
to
have
do
to
that.
accept those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
if we, I don't know that will happen, retype them and then submit them to you? but then it may take a while.
That's fine. I just want to, if there's any way to ease it, that's all. I'm nitpicking, but I just figured I'd bring up the
Well,
comment.
where do they get the two different
This,
formats?
this is what normally is submitted. This group is entered in and sent out in a normal document.
And that's online.
And that's online.
That's
When
online.
you go online and submit a,
But here's,
complaint.
so I don't know where Mrs. Midla got this. It might be something that's old,
Well, it looks like she just,
Older.
right?
Some of these people may have made copies of them.
Could be,
Oh,
could be,
yes.
could
So
be.
that they would
Have them handy and they wouldn't have to, go online and try to search it down.
Whatever it is, like I said, I know I'm nitpicking.
I hate to tell them, no, this is the wrong form, especially if they're already upset about the blast.
I understand that. I understand that.
And then I think we've had some people have just sent a simple email
Right.
Charles.
describing it as well.
Correct.
Charles Scott had just,
Yeah.
like two sentences,
And that's not a problem as long as they're entering their name, contact number, and an address, and whether or not they want to be contacted. That's what I need to see. But in the future, if I just start getting things and that's not presented, it's going to put me in a bind.
Understood.
Okay.
That's a reasonable request.
That's
Sorry.
all.
So what you're showing up there now, is that what you get when you're online?
That's the
It's
new.
when you're online.
Okay.
That's what they,
It has the instructions and everything over there, okay.
that's all I wanted to
And when they get the other ones either from their own stash, or are they still available, or?
I don't know.
Are the other ones still available online? Then we need to take them off.
So we always have two options on our website. You can submit it online, or you can print out a copy to bring into the office. And then in the office, we have the older version there for residents who don't have access to computers or who don't prefer to use them to come in to fill out that form.
Can we print off the most current and have that one available for people to fill in?
I can take our online form and turn it into a fillable PDF file, and I can put that as the printable version on the city's website. And I can make that one accessible in the office as well.
I think that might
So
be,
that will help the form look more uniform. But there will still be some residents who prefer to come in to fill it out.
That's fine. That's fine.
But it would still be the same form then, though? right?
yeah, we will
Same
work
information?
on standardizing
Good.
where it's just the same form.
No problem, great.
That will be worked on.
Thank you.
Anything?
Anything else?
No?
Any other questions?
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing I'd say is that, and I think we're going to continue to get a lot of folks where we don't know why they're complaining because the numbers are down. But in many cases, I think it's the first time they're really feeling the effects.
Agreed.
And the Aggie pit is in a position that obviously is getting their attention. And when we use the Aggie pit, until it becomes normal and they get used to it, each one is, holy cow, we're getting so many, it's hurting my house, because they're just not used to it. And I think we're gonna see that, and of course, in the early days in Trophy Oaks, we had
Yes.
that same thing. So part of it's education, part of it's time, and anytime it's from a different direction or different, they're gonna react to it. So I think your concept of let's see if we can get a monitor in that area so we can see what they're feeling would be helpful. Obviously, we're limited by the folks that are willing to say, yes, we'll do that. And hopefully Jerry will have some luck with Mrs. Midla so that we could do that. But I'm in the same boat you are. There's not a whole lot we can say or do if we can't measure there. And if the numbers are so low,
Looking at it logically, I'm sure you all see it, it's got to be less than what we're recording. But I
the
don't
only
know what that
difference
number is.
the frequency
Could
is
also
probably
be-
going to be lower.
Sure. But until I have a unit there,
Right.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yep.
All right, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving right along here. Well, the other thing that happened, I guess, in September at the city council meeting, I thought I brought it up, but myself and Mr. Baruki, we were given an opportunity to stay on the commission. Mr. Baruki was, we had voted to have him stay, and they approved that, and they also approved that I would be able to stay on the commission. And as far as Jerry, he's looked around for a few places to place a monitor, things like that. Given how this evening goes, we may be able to have another place on Sumac Lane that may allow us to place a monitor. I hope. So I'll just move on with that. Okay, number 5 I'm at now. Updates for the grapevine article. Anybody have anything? Okay. Where did we go?
Are you still doing the grapevine, Jerry?
No,
I thought
Janelle,
I thought Mark Dubois
Mark
was doing
Dubois,
that.
yeah, he had been doing that for the last 6 months, I think.
Mark?
Yes,
The boys?
yeah.
The ex-member.
He's
So
been
we
ex
need
for
to-
a long time, though. That's right, we've been
But we've
going
only
through this
met
COVID
once.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's true, okay. Any volunteers for the grapevine article?
No, I remember saying when I agree to be the vice committee chair, or commission chair, that I would be willing to do that if, I could have someone else. I was doing it for 4 years, so I think somebody else could get a nice turn there.
I'll do it.
All right. we
Thank
have a
you.
volunteer.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much, Mr. Mudge. Commissioner Mudge.
May not like it, but I'll do it.
Great. Okay.
Who did the last one? You know?
Mark. But that was long before COVID broke out and stuff like that, so I understand. I feel that I'm missing something here. I need to talk with Mr. Dillinger. Is that you, sir? Not you. Is he here? Oh, man.
It does not look like the applicant is in the audience tonight.
This is the applicant?
That's who I was hoping to speak with. and
Yeah, I thought
haven't
last
had-
time we were gonna try and make sure that the applicant would be here, yeah.
Well,
Maybe not.
So last meeting, he had a family emergency and could not attend. And I emailed him last week, seeing if he would like to participate, and he said that he was still interested and that he would attend the meeting. But he has not shown up tonight.
okey-dokey then. I mean, yeah, because I also sent him a note too, and then I had talked to Kat about it as well, so I was hoping that, would you like to change your name?
I'll think about it.
Thank you.
So
Nice try.
is that under C, recommendations that you're talking about? that we just-
Yes.
Well, just glossed right over that one. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
just out of the water on that. And so now, moving right on to D, any educational training?
No, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I missed something.
You need to appoint a new chair and vice chair, or reappoint current. It's C13.
Oh, is it time for officers, you're saying? Okay.
Yes.
I move that we, do we elect? Is that the point? Okay. I move that we elect the existing chair and vice chair to continue service. Thank you.
I second that.
Thank you. There you go.
Are you willing?
Of course.
Yes, I second that. I thought we'd already decided
I did too,
that, but now we're formal.
it's in writing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're going to vote for it?
Yes,
and
you
make it
need to take a
official?
vote, please.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Done.
Is that good enough?
Congratulations.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yes.
It has.
Yes.
Infinitely.
By the dot of an I.
While we're there, though, I will ask either Ms. Kane or you, either one, Mr. Chair, the recommendations related to application of ordinance provisions to commission members, are we back to is that attendance or dress code? What is that?
We have that on there, so if there's something that comes up that needs to be addressed,
Ah, okay, it's optional, okay.
perhaps with absences or things of that nature, then it's already on there and it can be addressed and does not have to be delayed a month.
Okay, good.
Is anybody in trouble or? close
No.
to it? They seem like they've
No,
suspended.
y'all are fine.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we mentioned at the last meeting or not, but council is waiving the attendance
Yes,
at
you
the,
did.
okay,
Yes, you did.
okay,
And it's in the minutes as well.
okay,
And that applied to all of 2020?
yes.
Right, okay.
To,
Yes.
to the end of 2020,
Yeah.
but our next meeting will be in.
January.
Well, the council will meet.
2021.
Council will have 2 more meetings, though.
Yes, it will.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I see a lot of zeros over there on our totals, so, okay.
Any other questions on that? Are you good? You good? Everyone good? Anybody take the time to go through the, I'll go to D now, is that okay? Discuss the blasting educational materials, anybody go through that?
On this very first page. On this first page, the video,
Yeah, online, you couldn't click on it and make anything happen, I could.
okay, and what, yeah.
Is that going to be made available?
That was my question, is it something that could be a link to our commission website, so that,
Yeah, you're saying that doesn't work on your computer?
No, it didn't.
Okay.
I mean, the link that was out there to go to, the Quarry information, or the Appendix B in the Quarry
It just doesn't show.
worked, but this one did not show. And some of the pictures that were in there, they weren't showing either. They just didn't print out or whatever the case may be.
Okay. Okay, take note on that. Sure, we can get that fixed.
but I would say that,
I know in our office, we got it to work. So I don't know if it's a computer thing or if it's a software thing. I'm not sure.
I would tend to think that it's more of a computer thing, because we don't go out and buy new computers when we need to, we buy them when we have to.
Got it, okay. I hear you. So,
You have to have the presentation with the file, because the presentation will reach the file. If you've got it on your computer, if anybody else opens it, it's gonna search for that file.
okay,
That's the problem with PowerPoint. Anybody
okay,
can do it.
so maybe that's our error, okay.
Okay, so maybe it's not a computer.
Done enough presentation in front of people. and it works.
Okay. Easy fix.
I would say that as I look through this, I thought it was pretty comprehensive, you know, and some of it gets a little complex and technical, you know, but I would rather have it that way and somebody saying, well, this is a little, you know, a little involved, rather than have less.
It's complex stuff, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
But, you know,
Right,
I mean, there's some stuff that is just basic. And there's the one statement, can't remember where it was, that says the cracking of foundation is almost unheard of, you know. And that's, you know, I didn't know whether, what struck me is there a way to,
Make that a little less absolute.
well, no, where does that, you know, who says it's almost not, you know what I'm saying? Is there something that says, due among various studies done over the last 20 years or something like that?
Something to reference, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, easy to be done, sure.
Is there any information that would be put in there to describe monitor calibration and when it's done? And how that information, so that as you place a monitor or you go out and you say, okay, let's put a monitor on Sumac Lane somewhere. And once that monitor is there, somebody drives by, they look at it and they say, oh yeah, there's a monitor right there. When was the last time the monitor was verified that it was accurate? Because
That comes into everyone. That comes into our office every morning. It's accuracy. The yearly calibration is generated on every waveform as to when it needs to be re-upped, right? So to put a fresh new unit in, that's a year. As long as, you know, we plan to switch them out every year, as long as each morning when it comes in, it tells us everything's looking good.
Right, okay. So, in other words, I'm trying to say that if I was a resident or somebody that was getting a monitor, how would I know that I have an accurate monitor? Is there something in this report that would say, give me that feeling of confidence that the monitoring is accurate?
Sure.
There's nobody out there, you know, saying, here I'm placing the monitor, and I can talk to them or something like that and say, this monitor is working fine, everything's working fine, and this is how I know that, and this is how it should be acting. But now it's just there, and so now I need to be able to go look somewhere online or somewhere and say, okay, yeah, this is monitor XYZ, and it has been calibrated, and I'm okay with that, because I see some sort of traceability of accuracy.
Interesting. Okay. On every waveform printed, and it is something I don't normally point out, but it is on every waveform we've seen. At the very end, if we could picture our waveform, we have our pulse, right? Our green, yellow, and purple lines. The very, very right of that graph, there's something called a cal pulse. It's a little swoop, almost like a parabola. And that swoop is generated on there if there's any tick, if there's any fuzz, or if that's not doing that arc, if it's flatlined. That's a clear indication of the calibration not being accurate. But we would never allow that, as we get that report every morning at what, 5:36 in the morning. It's our job in our office to make sure that all of our instrumentation doesn't have any of that. As it's built, manufactured, and modeled, we have 365 days until we would expect to see that, right? So
Well, I think the answer is pretty simple. I think we can simply say that it is checked
Daily.
every day.
Daily.
And
The
that's
accuracy
their-
is
That
checked.
would be the homeowner's assurance that it is in calibration is.
Correct.
And we could simply state it is checked every day and not used if it's not in calibration. Rather
Correct.
than try to get into whether it's a year or 2 months or whatever, I think what they need to know is that it's an accurate instrument.
Correct.
And we tell them it is checked every day, which
Correct.
it is.
Mhm.
I think that's all they would need to know. And then if there's some problem that they say, well, it felt a whole lot worse than this, then we can get into it and look at it. But I think by telling them up front, it's checked every day, and that's simple. If you try to get into all the other, there's so many variables, it gets be way too difficult to do. But I think as
Yeah.
long as we say it is checked every day, which it is, I think that most citizens will be comfortable.
And that kind of statement, I didn't see that covered in the training manual.
Okay.
Just something
Put
to
in.
tell, to make you feel
Better.
confident about what you're looking at.
Gotcha. We can put that in there.
Yeah. Other than that, where you have the natural frequencies, it's supposed to go to a picture.
Yeah, did that not attach either? I'll have to attach that file too, just like in page 1. I'll make sure we get those files in there too. Yeah. Yeah. They work on our computers because we have the file.
Are there any other future agenda items that anybody would like to have on our next meeting? Earlier, I heard Commissioner Diaz speak of, he had a question
For
about.
max pounds.
Exactly, so maybe redefining or reiterating the definitions of what things may mean might be something worth having again, because I'm getting forgetful, he's just wanting to learn, so.
Are you suggesting
Review
next
of-
meeting we review the terms? Basic
Correct,
terms?
like in the reports where you have, say, you have the time, the location, stuff like that.
Sure.
Velocity, things of that nature. Also, in one of the graphs, you have a one for air overpressure.
Mm-hmm.
It has the date, it has the air overpressure, and then it has 90 to 150. That's not defined, but 90 to 150 is defined. So what are we talking about there?
I'm sorry, in what document does it say that?
Is that, are
Air
you reading from the
overpressure
blast
measurement.
report? Are you looking at the blast report?
Yes.
You know, that never shows up in our, in here, in our packet, but it's it's what we get, the copy of, after every blast, within an hour.
Yeah, that's,
That one.
back to the other slide, Jack, look to it.
Oh,
It's the one with the big yellow block across
All
the top.
the history.
There you go.
Yes.
Slot diagram.
okay.
The 90 to 150 has been there forever, but it has never been defined.
DBs.
Those are, oh yeah, well, those are all, that's the decibel reading. Okay. We'll label
It's
that.
not labeled, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I mean, it's been there forever that way, just took note of it again, so,
Okay.
okay.
Again, now, let me ask, if we're asking you for just a real quick refresher of some of the terminology for next time, is that what you're suggesting?
Correct.
It might be good to have that, once our other new member, if Gary Dellinger shows up next meeting to do both of them, you know what I'm saying, if the two new members at the same time. Can we make that,
We're not a new member yet, is he? We haven't voted on that.
No, we haven't interviewed.
oh, okay, it'll be
Recommended.
another 2 months after that. Okay, never mind. Yeah, never mind.
Well, that we can just give it,
Yeah.
since we've already, we will have redone it. A lot of us do with it on so I think one of the things too, that a lot of people don't understand that would be useful is this logarithmic functions that we have and what increase in the dB really means and what increase in PPV really means. And
Sure.
so people can understand when they see these and then tie that to the terms that they're going to learn, and then it allows them to process that.
Very good.
That makes perfectly good sense to me as well, because that was sort of like the mapping that you did. It's really accurate. It's a lot more accurate than it has been. And like I said, my house is right next to Mr. Scott's house, but it seemed like it was a long distance away, but I mean, literally, it's, you hear each other in the morning. So, yeah. Good. Anything else? Just for your information, the next meeting is going to be on January 11th, 2021. Yes. At 6 p.m., not 2020. This year will be over. Other than that, any questions for Leslie? Very nice. Motion to release. Close the meeting.
So move that the meeting adjourn.
Did we do citizen comment? Second citizen comment period. Although there's no one here, please just
Is there
state it.
any second
Thank you.
citizen comments that we have? Anybody, anybody?
Okay, thank you.
So
This meeting is now adjourned.
I know.
You have a second reading.
Yeah,